So first I want to thank the consortium members. I didn't put I put the University of Lille because they pay. So those one are the paying one, and I have so I remove all the ones that were not the academics that were not paying. You see. So thanks a lot for the support, because this is that's important. Okay, so the talk. So I will show you a bit what we did during Pharo 13. I will not talk about the details because there are too many of them, and then I will show you a bit where we go for Pharo 14 because we already started. So this is this blue metal look. So basically we clean the theme. Now you can create your own theme. Maybe we should do a competition, and if people want to design their own theme, they send it to us, and we could integrate them, because I'm really fed up with the white theme that looks gray. So anyway, so you see, so that's why we have this dark blue one. The spec book is out for real, thanks to Koen. He will show you that a bit. You know, I guess that it took me 5 years, and probably Koen 1 full year, because I was stuck, you know, with this book, just stuck. And we will update it for Pharo 13 or 14, we will see, and you can find it on Amazon, on the French Bibliothèque Nationale, so that's cool. So what we did in Pharo, we closed nearly 700 pull requests just on the Pharo repository, closed something like 800 issues. We got 70 different contributors, and I'm not talking about because Pharo, this is all these projects that you can see on GitHub. So quite a lot of effort. So we did some UX changes, and for example, I don't know how many times you were resizing a window, closing it, and of course the size was the previous one, and you were resizing the window and get frustrated. So it was really frustrating. So now all the tools remember their size. To introduce this change, usually we try to have changes that do not break. This one may break a bit the spec things. I could not find a way not to do it otherwise. And we revisited all the tools one by one, so there are still some bugs, because the tests don't cover those aspects. We were forced to change the API. There is a documentation that explains what you should do now with the new protocol, but like that we can get a better UI. So I don't have a video for that. There was quite some work on the source navigation for the people among you that love the control arrow, shift up things. You can navigate, you know, camel case. You can jump from one to the other one, jump to the right place where you have your argument and things like that. You should ask a demo to Guichet, because he was mainly doing that with Gabriel and also some other people of the team. We have a lot of nice tests for that, because when we started, there was not a single test on how to move the caret and what does it mean. So this means that when you were changing something, it was breaking in another place. So maybe we will do a little video just to show that. Yes? Okay, that's cool. I want to see that because I don't know the bindings. Huh? So we continue to rewrite all the tools into spec. So you will see we have a new process browser. We have a new file list browser with something that can navigate and do things that you could expect from that. We have a new finder that is also in spec. We have a new transcript. We got also an object transcript that is in preview. So the object transcript, what it is that you can log object and not just strings. And what is nice is that after you can do queries. For example, when you have a collection, you can say, okay, I want to grab the stuff and I want to do something with that. So you can, basically, we use beacon. Beacon, this is the object announcer kind of things in Pharo. And like that, you can log anything in the transcript. We have also in preview a new settings browser because at the end of the day, Morphic will disappear. Yes. And you cannot understand how I'm happy and how Morphic was invasive. Huh? Okay. On the spec front, Esteban designed something that is called the easy components. So basically, you can plug in the list table entries. Now you can plug any presenter inside, which is quite good. I will show you. I try to show you. Let's because I'm not sure that I'm good at that. So here you have the code of the. We have a label, an image, a button, and then this is displayed there. So it's not really sexy, but it means that you can put any presenter. So I have another example. This kind of guy here. This is not a table, I guess. This is, I will show you the code. We have that guy. This is a presenter. And it is composed of an image, a link, a label. So this means that we can plug anything we want inside a list, blah, 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 blah. So, and that's good because this was really missing because you had to split all the time everything into elementary things. So since Pharo 12, I don't know if we changed, but I really see the difference because now I get a retina screen and everything is sharp. So except some of the, yes. Thanks, Chris. We polished a bit the zoomable UI. So this means that now when you said 150, you have a full zoom, nice, and things like that. So like that, Nouri is happy because you don't have to have a big font there and little font here, which was a total mess before. Okay. So we work also on, you have the first version of what we call an organic window manager. I will present that later during the week. But basically the idea, this is how can you help you not to be messy without forcing you to think and to work in a certain way? Because sometimes you have a system where they said, oh no, you should do it like that. And for me, like that does not fit my way of doing things. And I'm like, oh, why do they cut my finger? Now I have to type with my nose. So this is a bit difficult to type with your nose on the keyboard. So it's like, okay. So we said, we don't know how you work. And probably the way you work is the best for you. Now, can we structure this space? Help you to structure the space. So the idea is that with Cavrois, the organic window manager, you place your tool, you press snapshot, you can edit the behavior of the tool because sometimes you want to say, I want this stuff to pop up or not. And then after, when you open a tool, it goes in the right place. So just to show you a bit. So here we have two code browser, one playground, the test runner, the repository. We place it like that. Now, when I look at what we call the placeholder, I can see and I can attach behavior to them, like I want that you pop up or I want that you stack the window. And then after, for example, here, if I open 5 browsers, they will get stacked, one there, one there, one there, one there. The playground will be always opening here, and I can say, please replace this one if I want, or stack it on top of the other one without stacking, just exact space and things like that. So this means that like that, and then you have profile. So you can, for different tasks, you could switch from one profile to the other profile and automatically also the window, if you mess up with them, you can say, please go back to your original place, and they go back to the original place. So it's a bit green, but we really try to see what can we do so that we don't know what is good for you, but to help you to make sure that this is good for you. You know, it's a bit tricky, but okay. We work on the implementation of the breakpoint. So now alt-if, alt-once are more robust. We don't use the IC cache anymore, they are faster. We introduce some other helpers that are quite cool, like stop a number of time, or stop until this number, and these kinds of things. You should check the API. That's easy, have a look. We work a bit more on the UX for the refactoring, and I want you to understand that, because sometimes I have the impression that we should communicate better. In fact, we want two different APIs for the refactoring. You have the batch mode. You said the refactoring, you get configure, run. And you can run thousands of them. Or in interactive mode, you want to say, oh, refactorings, I would like to do that. And then the system said, yeah, but Steph, you cannot. Sorry. And what are the possibilities that I propose to you? So imagine, you want to remove a class. The refactoring said you can remove a class if it has no reference, if the class is empty, if it has not subclasses, if it has no methods. So you imagine the number of times that it can fail. So what we do is that then in that case, we will propose you, oh, you have subclasses. Maybe you want to merge, pull up, or take the subclasses and put them there, or you have a state. Oh, do you want to push the state down, or all those kinds of things. So this means that they are not just refactoring. They are much more complex than that. We use refactoring, but you have what we call a driver of the refactoring that's more a UI, an interaction object that will say, oh, what should I propose to this guy? So this means that now in the architecture, we have a refactoring driver, and the driver has this logic. And a driver can drive multiple refactoring depending on the state of your program. And you can also launch transformation, which will break your code, because sometimes I want to break my code. I know this is me, the adult in the room. And of course, for that, this means that we have to revisit all the preconditions of the refactorings because they were monolithic. They had pop-ups inside, and you don't want to have a pop-up that you don't understand, basically, because most of the time I don't understand the pop-ups of the refactoring. I don't know you, but me, this is too complex. It's like, yes, and blah, blah, subclass, or blah, blah, or blah, blah. He said, okay, that's useless, cancel. So we want something that I can understand as a programmer, and that in batch mode, you don't have a pop-up or a warning or whatever. So you see, so that's why we were working on that. From the debugger, we also work a bit on the UX aspect because we were always arguing what is the default protocol? Should we have a default protocol? Should we ask the guy, oh, what is the protocol that you want? And people hate that, and the other one, they want that. And it's like, because if you don't have that, after you have as yet unclassified, so do we have endless argument. Now you can define it. You can say, no, I don't want. Let me do my own way and things like that. So you should check that. You see, we have this. There is this, especially when we do TDD and we create something, you can define where it is and play a bit with that. You will see. We did another iteration on the debug point. So I don't know if you know what are the debug points, but this is, you don't have to change the source code to put alt, and you can put multiple alts with condition, with all kinds of things. I will not go into the detail, but there is one cool feature. This is this one. I don't know you, but me. I put some alt in my system, I code, and I'm like, oh yes, that's nice. This is the place where I want to watch something, but stop and look inside and say, okay, that's correct. So I put 3 alts, and then after I want to run my test, and I have to remove the alt. And then, when my test is green, I go to the next things, and I re-put the alt in the right place. This is super annoying. So now what you can do with the debug point, is that you place your alt. When you want to write all the tests, you click on this button, you run your test, you commit, you do whatever you want, and when you want to iterate back, you re-click on this button, and your alt are there, and said like, ah, yes. Yes, and then, by the way, you could have alt with multiple colors. You could say, I want to stop only the green alt or the pink. Let's say I want to stop the pink alt and only you disable the blue one. You can do all kinds of things with that. So we did, you know, when I step back and I look at what we did, I said, oh, maybe we didn't did enough. But in fact, we did all these things that you forget. Because this is the, you know, there are many little annoyance things that when they are done, you never thought that they were badly done before. You know, these kinds of feelings, like, you know, like, find and replace. Why do you ask me 10 times to always type the fucking stuff that I want to replace? So now you type it once and the system said, oh, you want it back? Yes, Stefan, yes, oh, yes. Oh. Those kinds of things. So we did plenty of them. If you find some of them, we have a tag that is called UX. You enter it and then we will fix it. On the VM side of things, Guichet, you tell me if I say something wrong. Huh? What they told me in the list, there is the async IO for Unixes. We introduced a faster byte array and string comparisons. There is improved support for non-ASCII file names on Windows, which were annoying. Support for FreeBSD. There is an update on the SDL2. And then we will probably go on SDL3 in the near future. And now minimal version, this is Mac OS 11. Okay. What we are also redoing, and that you don't see, but it can help, this is all the infrastructure for the virtual machine tagging and things like that. So that you can rely on the good name, so that and the build system, and so behind the scene we have all the build system that is redesigned. So this is not us directly that did that, but I want to show you because this is super cool what Alain Plantec is doing at Brest with the sponsoring of Thales. So Toplo is coming, I will show you. Yes, it takes time, but this is really good. So I was thinking maybe I prefer to wait a bit to get something really good versus get something bad. So Toplo, this is a new widget library that is on top of Block. This is sponsored by Thales. The design is inspired by ant.design. And we have the spec backend that is underway. So why do we convert everything to spec? Because after we want to transparently switch to Toplo. So currently, all the widgets are there except table. And I just want to show you some video that sometimes I find on my Discord account because Alain sent me things. So you have some widgets here. So for example, sometimes when you look at them, they look natural, but you should see that in Pharo we are living in the 90s from the UI perspective. So it's like, wow, yes, I want a modern UI, you know? And we are getting there. Look at this one. So this is just one scenario, but what I like is the attention to details. So what Alain is doing, he told me, you know, I am consolidating the list. So instead of doing yet another widget, he makes sure that the list is super good and that all the components that are using list use it well. So that's a whole demo, but so I will not show you. There is pane support. What's happened if you have panes and that your window is too small so that you cannot click on the pane? Then in that case, you get a menu that you can access your panes, and all these details that are super important at the end from the UX point of view. That was 3 days ago. This is what I received. I was doing the presentation. This is floating buttons, like on the Google Map. You have these floating buttons. So some of the recent things. What was interesting, this is the experiment behind accordions. We could prototype 3 different implementations in one afternoon. And then playing, okay, we went to see how the other widget toolkit are doing that and check, okay, what should we put inside? What is the behavior? Okay, let's do that. And then Alain, after did it. By the way, everything that you see is skinnable. So this means that you can, because we will have a look for Pharo, but for Thales, they have their own proprietary look. So this means that it should work like that. You have the trees, for example. That's one of the recent addition. The trees with filters and things like that. So with the same amount of detail. So for me, this is really, and everything is in block. So that's super nice. By the way, Thales people will show you things that I didn't see yet, because they use block for doing cool application for the army, or for kind of. And the cool thing is that they can show it. So I really want to see that. What are the goals for Pharo 14? So we really want to have the top-low integration. So basically, we need the table and the spec backend. That's and cutting the morphic links. We did that over Pharo 12, Pharo 13, cutting all this stuff. We will have also a better support for Windows at the file system. So if you are a Windows user and you have scenario that get on your nerve from the file system, please contact us. If we have actionable things like when I do that, it is not good, like that we can improve that. On the side of things, we don't know if the next item will be in Pharo 14, but since something like 6-7 months, we work 1 day a week with Guichet, and we are redesigning completely a new compiler. Because we want to be able to have a module system, and we want to be able to compile, to have a different compiler that could compile something different in a module, and that we can debug it. Because right now, when we compile something, it is compiled, but you have no metadata. You don't know how the system has been compiled. Is it with which kind of optimizing plugin and things like that? And everything was tangled. So we are also, from that perspective, creating a kind of static description of the model of the compilation, so that we can have a different debugger. And the debugger can be able to debug things without having to reparse the system. Because right now, each time we want to do something, you have to parse, compile the code. And we want to say, no, maybe we want a system without the compiler at all. So can we get there? And we are getting there. So last week we got a simple bytecode debugger on. We have even a different kind of compile methods. We have what we call the petit compile methods, that are our own special compile methods inside a module. And like that, we could identify the API for debugging. So we are really trying to structure the space there. And we crash a lot. But we could recompile Armor with himself, of course. and run the test in modules and things like that. So we will continue to work on a refactoring effort. We will have one guy that will work 6 months on that, and I will continue with Balsha to work also. So something that I cannot show you, but that looks super promising. Esteban showed us that, and we were like all excited, like super excited. There is a Calypso 2, which is basically Calypso on steroids, that revisit completely the whole way of placing and having the browser. And you know, often I'm skeptical with these kinds of things, but I think that he has a point. So we really want to see that. We will migrate the message browser because this is something that we need it a lot. There is a new version of Kavra with cells, so you can take your window and then there are cells that attract the window and say, okay, you can be placed here. We are revisiting the completion because in fact there is a cool framework for completion in Pharo. You can compose heuristics. So when you complete something, the system knows, oh, this is a method that is in this class, and then I should look and pay attention and follow the inheritance and all these kinds of things. But sometimes it didn't work, so we look at what, and then we are doing experimentation. And there is a good one that is a package dependency. So we use the dependency of your package to look first for the things. And we will also revisit soon the history. So this means that if you type 10 times the same methods, maybe the 11th time that will be the same one. So we will put that in production. For the VM side, so their current work on improving Slang so that we can really get the better infrastructure. You can discuss with Guichet, by the way, if you're interested, and he will show some presentation. I don't know exactly where, but we will see. We are really thinking of how can we redesign the code zone. So what is the code zone? This is the place in the virtual machine where the assembly is generated and placed. And there are impact on the way the information is stored there, like the literal object and things like that. And this has an impact on the garbage collector and things like that. So we are revisiting that. We got several people working on that. There will be more work also on Drupal. So what Nawel is doing, it is Drid. So Drid take a description of a primitive or a bytecode written in Slang and generate the code that will generate the assembly for the JIT. So that's Drid. But we can also use Drid to give him bytecodes and produce other bytecodes or things like that. So basically, what we have in Drid is that we have the architecture of a real compiler. Because Marcus always told me, yes, the Pharo compiler, this is a toy, more or less, and I never understood why, and now I understand why, because in Drid we have SSA form, we have basic blocks, we have all kind of algorithms that we can work on that. Now, what we also want to do, and maybe some of you will scream, but maybe others will be really happy, we will see. We want to have a static call in Pharo. So like that, you could say, we want to be able to execute these methods and without lookup. It does not mean that you have to use it everywhere, but maybe when you want that, and you are an adult, you really want that. So we are really understanding when, what, can we do it behind the scenes. So just to give you an example, we are looking for a polymorphic call site. This means that you have receiver of different classes that invoke all the same methods. If you take class, for example, this is what happened. Basically, class is, there is only one definition in the system, but you have multiple call sites with different objects. So this means that there is a switch there and things like that. So the point is can we get rid of those switch? So We could do that behind your back, and probably we will do that. And then after, the next question is that if this is valuable, can you offer you the possibility to use that in your code? So we will see. But we are working on that. We are looking for an engineer on this kind of thing. So if you are interested, just let us know. And as a conclusion, you know, for me, this is more than 10 years. I was counting that I dream about another UI stack. When you look at, I think that we will have one of the sexiest stack in modern programming languages, because even JavaFX is not that great from that perspective. So that's really interesting. You see, this is like, wow. When I discovered Squeak, I was always thinking that that could be the system to build real media systems. And now I have the impression that yes, we can. So that's super nice. So I'm super happy, and we will get there. So that's what I wanted to share with you. So if you have questions, I can try to answer. So maybe the student volunteer, they have a mic and. Press there.
I'm using a lot of Rosal actually to do visualization stuff. And so I'm wondering, the block, it will have similar
yes, that's a good.
stuff.
Yes, that's so the question, this is, will we support Roasal in block? Yes. I would say unfortunately, but yes. We have to, you know. Just that you know, all the Moose platform is using Roasal everywhere. So, and there are other users. So there is already a prototype. I don't know exactly the status. That you can ask Pablo and Martin. They did a prototype of Roasal in block. And yes, this is super important. So as soon, you know, when we decided that we integrate Roasal into Pharo, we took the decision that day that we will support it and maintain it, even if, frankly, we have enough. But that's super important. So we cannot not do it.
Peep, peep, peep. Yeah. Not sure if it's a question or kind of a remark, because if you tell about the future in block, I get this squeakish Pharo fear, you know, how many times we had the future and then the future got bored and went away. And the project never did happen. So, and then you said about the block, we're waiting for having something perfect. And that's my fear. So when will it happen? So for just to give you another view for us, I will call me a user of the system. An improvement you could call slightly less annoying than the one we have already. So I'm not sure if this block thing, I'm not sure what is the state. You will have it integrated. Will then the migration of all the stuff to block will happen immediately? Or is it present and still morphic and, you know, yada yada?
So I will answer. I know. I know. The problem is that, do you want a UI without table right now? No. So we were really concerned about that, and this is not something that you do in 2 months. This is really something complex from that perspective, to do it right. So this means that we work on parallel to make sure that this is happening. So yes, I really want that we get Toplo for Pharo 14, and then we should do it really soon. I mean, it should be inside Pharo really soon. What will happen is that, you see, we will not migrate Calypso. because if we wait that Calypso is ready, then we are dead. So we will not wait for that. What we were thinking is that we can have a morphic rendered inside a block window, or that we said, okay, you cannot use the native windowing system when you are coding in Pharo because everything is in, because in Toplo you can decide either you put everything into one space, or you can have each tool is in own native window. Maybe we will say if this is not practical, we will not compromise with that. We will say, okay, during maybe one version of Pharo, then we will have to do that like that. So yes. And now I really think that for Pharo 14, that should be, this is the goal. Okay, so Dave?
This is on, yes. The features that in the debugger, for example, that turn off the tests or the halts, that's really nice. Are these accessible from a programming standpoint? So I would think it would be very useful in my test to turn that off before I run my test. But sometimes I wouldn't want to do that, but I might want to do that. Are these UI pieces accessible from, easily accessible from code?
I cannot tell you 100% for sure, but I guess yes. So we can ask. Not totally, but you want to programmatically control that, and I think that it should be possible. There is a debug point manager, and you can say debug point manager, do things and things like that. Yes. That's okay? Okay, so thank you a lot, and coffee break time. Yes.